over to Matthew's house.
At night.
Lights were on. I could see in his window. Lights were on. And I started ringing the doorbell, banging on the door. Now, typically, he would have said, go away, or come to the door, invite me in. He did nothing. That was not his pattern. And so I had a pretty good sense that perhaps something catastrophic had happened.
And what time was this?
That was late on Thursday, April 4th. And so I was pretty sure that something had happened. But he had also told us that if we called the police, that he would take his life instantly. So a call to the police was an instant suicide. So I was living with that horrible, horrible choice of, do I call the police and perhaps intervene, or do I take that risk? If I call, then he instantly kills himself. So we just had to wait for a few hours. And so it was into the next day that I felt that he was not responding.
And we didn't hear anything back from him.
He didn't go to work. He didn't go up to his workout, which he didn't miss.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much knew. And finally, when I sent the text saying, look, I'm calling the police. If you don't, just give me one word that tells me you're okay. One word, and I won't call the police.
We'll call 911,
and there was nothing. And so we went back to the house. His house looked exactly the same lights were on. We knew. By that time we knew.
Rick, you got back to the house in the morning. You had this awful sense that he had probably taken his life, but you couldn't get inside the house. You called the police and you were waiting.
Right.
That moment for the both of you must have been beyond harrowing.
We were sobbing. We were just sobbing. The day that I had feared might happen one day since he'd been born, and the day that I'd prayed would never happen, happened. And I remember as we stood in the driveway, just embracing each other and sobbing.
On behalf of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, and its program partners, welcome to the 2018 Voice Awards. And for those joining us virtually, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kay Warren, and I stand here tonight with my husband, Rick, in 3 capacities. First, my public role as co-founder of Saddleback Church in nearby Orange County, California. Second, as the big sister of a wonderful man who developed a devastating addiction to heroin. And third, as the mother of a child who battled severe depression from a young age. These roles have profoundly affected my life and challenged me as a person of faith. But I found my voice and a purpose to use my voice as a public figure and a spiritual leader on behalf of those with mental illness.
Our youngest son, Matthew, lived with mental illness for most of his life. He was diagnosed with clinical depression when he was just 7 years old. And Kay and I had a hard time, as I suspect many families do, understanding what was really going on with Matthew, not really sure how to help him. And for 2 decades, he battled that condition. 5 years ago, he died by suicide. He was 27. It was devastating to us. Kay and I look back on that time wondering, what could we have done differently? What could we have done in any other way? Did we do enough to help our son manage his illness? And of course, we always talked about what happened, and we came to realize early on that Matthew's death affected everybody he loved. It didn't just affect us. And to hide our experience of, or to even feel ashamed about it, would be a terrible disservice not only to Matthew, but to the millions of people around the world who struggle with mental illness or addiction.
Rick and I have seen dark days, not just in losing our son, which was the darkest day of our lives, but also in dealing with my brother's addiction to opioids. I felt a tremendous amount of anger and hurt as I watched my brother's life fall apart, and then as he took advantage of my parents' generosity and unflinching support to help him get better. He did get better, by the way, but I learned a lot in that process, and today I am actually more hopeful than I have ever been. Rick and I know firsthand that faith communities can play a huge role in helping people talk about what they're going through, and we believe in honesty, transparency, and forgiveness. We've encouraged other faith leaders to help change the dialogue about mental illness and addiction.
You know, healing is hard to come by when you can't open up and discuss what's happening to you, when you can't tell the people that you love the most what you're feeling or even what you need. Friends, we have to talk about everything without shame, without stigma, without any blame. And that is our message to you. Now, as we see tonight through the inspiring stories of the honorees, those who have lived the experience and those who have told the stories through television and film, there is always hope. Not every story ends in suicide. Not every story ends in an overdose. Recovery is possible, and it's happening every day. So thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for allowing us to join with you in opening up your hearts and your minds to the real experiences of individuals and families living with mental illness and addiction. Now, to help set the stage for tonight's program, I want you to please give a very warm welcome to SAMHSA's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Mr. Arnie Owens. Welcome him today, would you?
Thank you all for joining us here tonight. I want to take a moment to thank our generous hosts, Rick and Kay Warren. You know, St. James writes in the New Testament of the Bible that faith without works is dead. Well, the faith of Rick and Kay is very much alive, and their good works have been a blessing to all of us each and every day, and we do thank you very much. Tonight, our program is going to challenge you to think about issues that you might not fully understand or be aware of. The Warrens, through their own pain, have bravely challenged faith communities of every type to open hearts and minds concerning mental illness and addiction. Knowing that faith leaders are powerful messengers, Rick and Kay have dedicated a significant portion of their work to breaking down barriers to acceptance, understanding, and action related to behavioral health. I'm equally excited to have all of you here to learn from their experience and to gain a deeper understanding of the important role of faith communities in supporting identification, treatment, and recovery. Over the past 13 years, the Voice Awards program has provided us with many unique opportunities to learn from each other and to use those lessons to benefit others. While prejudice and discrimination still serve as barriers for those who experience mental illness and substance use disorders, I strongly believe our collaboration with witnessing so many powerful stories of individuals and peers with lived experience has helped challenge misperceptions and inspire discussions that might never have happened. We also wouldn't have made so much progress in this area without your dedication to sharing those stories through positive, accurate, respectful portrayals in television and film. Together, we've begun to open eyes and soften hearts, helping audiences around the nation and the world see mental illness and substance use disorders in a new light. Now we see young women who are experiencing depression. We see older men who have considered suicide. We see teenagers who are using alcohol to cope with social exclusion. And we see our nation's military community dealing with post-traumatic stress. Most important, we see all of these individuals as not only capable of, but also actively leading, fulfilling lives and contributing as members of their communities while living with their illnesses. Nominations for the Voice Awards have increased dramatically in recent years, and with good reason. There is simply more eligible programming. That means that millions who are experiencing mental illness and addiction, and those who support them, have access to in-depth portrayals that can help them understand and relate to behavioral health disorders, with an eye toward accessing critical treatment and services. Now that we have everyone's attention, it's time to start illuminating some of the country's most complex, entrenched mental health and addiction challenges. The 21st Century Cures Act, a law passed by the U.S. Congress in 2016, established a new position within the federal government to improve our response to the needs of Americans with the most serious mental and substance use disorders. Dr. Eleanor McCants-Katz, who couldn't be with us tonight, is the agency's first Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use. Under her leadership, SAMHSA is prioritizing 3 key elements of behavioral health that start with serious mental illness, which encompasses conditions such as major depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, psychotic disorders, and borderline personality disorder. They're defined by their potential to cause serious functional impairment in an individual's major life activities. In 2016, there were more than 11 million adults with serious mental illnesses and more than 7 million children and youth with a serious emotional disturbance. 35% of those adults did not receive mental health treatment. Why are we specifically focusing on serious mental illness? Well, we know people with serious mental illness are more likely to end up unemployed, wind up in jail or prison, or experience homelessness. Tragically, they die on average 10 years earlier than those who do not have a mental illness. They deserve better. We know that most people who develop a serious mental illness develop symptoms in young adulthood. Therefore, SAMHSA has activities focused on determining what interventions can be employed to impact the development of the illness, or at least reduce its severity. SAMHSA is also seeking to expand access to treatment, focusing on several aspects, including practitioner education. We're collaborating with law enforcement and justice professionals to provide intervention programs for those with mental health needs so that people aren't punished for their illness, but instead are given treatment. Recent figures from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, also bring somber news about the rate of suicide in the U.S. Across nearly every age and demographic group, death by suicide is on the rise. These aren't just numbers. They're real people with incredible promise who we're losing every day. The recent tragic deaths of several high-profile public figures have made many in America pay attention, perhaps for the first time. But those of us who work in behavioral health know we lose many of our family members, our co-workers, our neighbors, our fellow congregation members. SAMHSA is continuing to promote and maintain the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, or 273-TALK, T-A-L-K. We also are awarding grants to communities nationwide, including tribal communities, to use the latest research on a local level to prevent suicide. And we are encouraging everyone in need to seek help. Please know that you are not alone, and help is just a phone call away. We're training physicians and nurses to ask about suicidality during a routine exam. We're encouraging providers to help make safety plans with the person at risk and their family, and to be persistent in ensuring that a person in crisis gets to treatment and gets to it right away. Finally, tonight, I want to talk to you about our laser focus on stemming the tide of opioid addiction in this country. Again, you've heard the heartbreaking stories of gifted individuals who die from opioid overdose. You've heard about families broken and futures forfeited. I'm here to assure you that there is hope. It starts with understanding that overdoses are preventable and opioid use disorder is treatable. Since last year, when President Trump declared the opioid crisis a national public health emergency, Agencies across the federal government have been collaborating with their private sector or with the private sector to share information and strategies that work. We're learning more each day about how opioid use disorder develops and how to treat it. In April 2017, the Department of Health and Human Services laid out a 5-point strategy to address the opioid crisis. From funding local programs to developing mobile applications for providers that can help them administer medications to save lives, we're taking every opportunity to provide information and services to every community in the country. I'm confident we will emerge from the crisis if we work together, share effective strategies, and never give up. All of you play an important role in our success. By using your talents and your creative voice, you're helping to elevate the conversation, showing that treatment works and recovery is possible. I invite you to continue this mission, and I hope you will engage with SAMHSA and our partners whenever you have questions or see an opportunity to further our mutual mission. Thank you for your dedication to illuminating these truly life and death issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnie. Now, tonight's program will feature many compelling stories, both real life and fictional, that deal with addiction, serious mental illness, and suicide. Now, we're particularly proud that 2 of our honored productions are Oscar nominees, and another one won the Oscar for Best Documentary Short earlier this year. Now, this proves what we've known for a long time. First, that there are incredible stories in this room. And second, that this room is also filled with incredible storytellers. And the goal tonight is to bring you all together. Now, let's learn a little bit about our first presenter, the American Psychological Association. Watch this.
Life doesn't always look like TV in the movies, but thanks to the tireless work of the people in this room, we're seeing more honest and open depictions of mental illness and substance use. Whether it's on screen, in our conversations, or in our communities, we're changing perceptions, and that's changing lives. The American Psychological Association stands with you, united, working to make the world a better place for people living with substance use and mental health challenges. Together we share stories of strength, hope, and recovery. Together our voices are louder. Thank you for using yours to make a difference.
Now, from the California Psychological Association Board of Directors, please welcome Dr. Tanya Wood.
And I find in sharing our story, we gain power because we free ourselves from it, but we also empower others to know that they're not alone as well. These wise words come to us from Taryn Aiken Hyatt, a survivor of not only her father's death by suicide, but her own suicide attempts as well. Taryn draws from her own difficult experiences to educate others about suicide, mental illness, and the possibility of recovery. She's a respected advocate who supports increased suicide prevention training and stronger crisis services. A valued member of the Governor's Teen Suicide Prevention Task Force and a leader in the Utah Zero Suicide Initiative, Taryn facilitated 102 suicide prevention and mental health promotion trainings in 2017 alone, reaching more than 3,000 people. She takes time after presentations in secondary schools to talk to students individually and provide support to those who are struggling. Her work with families to help them understand mental illness and avoid the pain she has experienced is just one more example of the compassion and inspiration she brings to those around her. A valiant warrior, as she refers to suicide attempt survivors, Taryn is a true leader for suicide prevention. I'm honored to present tonight's first 2018 Consumer Peer Family Leadership Award to Taryn Aiken Hyatt.
Chosen as a recipient of the Voice Award. When I think of the word voice, It encapsulates my story. I lost my voice as a young child and lived in such darkness for many years. My inspiration, and the one who helped me to find my voice, was my father, Terry Aiken. I lost him to suicide on October 5th of 2002 and have been on a mission to stop suicide and help those who've been affected ever since. My work with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has led me to a place today where I'm looked to as a resource and a support for those who've been affected by suicide. And I work to bring light to those living in darkness and hope to the hopeless. I wish to thank my amazing husband, who's in the room tonight. I found him at age 41. You have brought such light to my life, and I thank you for loving me, especially when my own mental illness comes back for a visit. For my sweet mother, who loved me through 25 years of drug and alcohol addiction, who sat with me after 5 back surgeries and helped me to raise my 2 kids. And to those 2 beautiful souls, Colin and Caitlin, thank you for allowing me to be your mom, for standing by my side as I climbed myself out of the darkness that I lived in. We have to create a culture that is smart about mental health and suicide prevention. Using your voice and speaking your truth is how we do that. And I am honored to stand here before you tonight and receive this award. Thank you, SAMHSA. Thank you to my American Foundation for Suicide Prevention family. Raise your glass. I was going to do the dance, but I won't. But just so you know, I appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Our next presenter is known for her iconic role of Lucy Ewing on TV's Dallas. Her own experiences with family mental illness and the child welfare system have made her a devoted advocate for children in foster care. Please welcome Charlene Tilton.
Thank you for being here. What an honor and a pleasure it is for me. Now, this particular subject, unfortunately, has been in the news a lot recently. And though depression can be a contributor to suicide, there's never just one factor that leads to a suicide attempt. People who consider suicide are often in unbearable emotional pain, and they can be so distressed that they're unable to see that there are other options ahead of them. Well, sometimes just a very loving and caring voice can help them through this distress and isolation, and to help an individual seek a situation differently or look at their life and make better choices. Well, Hawaii Five-0 portrayed just this scenario late last year in an episode featuring Captain Lou Grover as a man in crisis he is trying to help. As part of this episode, Hawaii Five-0 also aired an honest, open public service announcement about the importance of extending a helping hand. Here is that PSA featuring actor Shai McBride and scenes from the emotional episode. Well, please join me in congratulating Hawaii Five-0 for the program's 2018 Voice Award. Accepting from the show set in Hawaii is Shai McBride.
Aloha, ahi ahi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the entire cast and crew, the writers and producers and staff of Hawaii Five-0, we would like to thank you for this prestigious award. We tonight are very grateful not only for this award, but to be singled out by a special group who does so much for so many who struggle and battle with mental illness, from the patients themselves to their friends and family that surround them. As we strive to continue to be worthy of this award, we wish you courage and success as you continue this wonderful work. Thank you. Mahalo. Good evening.
Shai, don't you worry about us in Hawaii in this 180 million degree heat in Los Angeles. So it's okay. Don't worry about us. Well, CBS is home to programs like Hawaii Five-0 and Mom, which I love. And they have worked so hard to raise awareness and understanding about mental health issues and substance abuse problems. These shows have brought recognition to the network in their own right. But tonight, we recognize CBS for its public service campaign known as CBS Cares. In 2017 alone, the network scheduled public service announcements worth over $200 million using their platform to educate the public on issues such as alcohol abuse, children's health, bipolar disorder, and suicide prevention, and postpartum depression and post-traumatic stress. Both of them are not good. Yeah, okay. I know, I suffered both of them, no, but I'm here to tell you it's okay. The campaign that CBS launched often features high-profile individuals from CBS shows, such as Cold Cases star Catherine Morris, who participated in PSAs about postpartum depression, see, I told you, and Mark Harmon, the NCIS star, featured in PSAs about bipolar disorder. Another CBS Cares project on depression included not only PSAs, but also a 60 Minutes icon, Mike Wallace, sharing his own personal stories of depression and recovery. And the compelling PSA on suicide prevention you just saw from Hawaii Five-0 is also part of the CBS Cares portfolio. CBS Cares has worked with medical experts to integrate humor to engage viewers, particularly on health issues that have been misunderstood. CBS Cares also has worked with the Voice Awards partner Active Minds on PSAs regarding children's mental health, as well as on PSAs addressing the opioid crisis. The dedication of CBS Cares to educating and engaging the public is invaluable, which is why they are so very deserving of this 2018 Voice Award for Industry Achievement. Accepting this award tonight for CBS Cares via video is Matthew Margot, CBS's Senior Vice President for Program Practices and the head of CBS Cares.
I'm Matthew Margot and have the privilege of supervising CBS Cares, which is at the heart of the CBS Corporation's public service initiatives. I'm very sorry that I can't be with you to receive this award in person. As you're watching this video, I'll actually be in flight to Nebraska for a pre-existing commitment. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate our CBS Primetime series Hawaii Five-0 and Mom for receiving their Voice Awards. Those of us at CBS who were fortunate to work with the shows on their suicide prevention and substance abuse projects could see how passionate and committed the productions and their talent, as well as the CBS Entertainment Division, were to the issues. It was inspiring to us. All of us who work on CBS PSA projects are grateful that the Voice Awards chose to honor us for our projects on mental health conditions. Hollywood is glamorous, but mental health conditions are not. And it means all the more to us that your organization, an important coalition, including every major Hollywood union, has recognized our projects that join your fight against the stigma surrounding mental illness, and to boost awareness that mental health conditions with the right support, are treatable. For years, CBS has tackled a wide range of mental health issues, including suicide prevention, bipolar disorder, depression, postpartum depression, and PTS. Mental health will always remain one of our most important causes, and this award is added incentive to us to stay the course, to convey to our audience that no one is to blame for mental illness, and that with family support and the right help, people who suffer from mental illness every year in the United States can get well. Thank you again for this honor. I wish you a successful event. CBS CAS.
Please welcome to the stage from SAMHSA, Carlton Spate.
Privilege to be with you tonight to recognize and honor the passing of two Voice Award awardees who left us early this year. Many of you might remember the 2010 Voice Award honoree, Fred Fries. In a fiery speech, tended with his signature sense of humor, Fred captivated his audience that night and every time he spoke. Fred died last month after a lifetime of advocating for the rights and dignity of people with mental illness. Diagnosed with schizophrenia as a young Marine Corps officer, he went on to teach psychiatry at Northeast Ohio Medical University, served as a clinical assistant professor at Case Western University, and worked as a coordinator of the Summit County Recovery Project. A tribute from one of his colleagues read, "When Fred was in the hospital during the final months of his life, graduates and students who cared for him shared their fond recollections of his encyclopedic knowledge, his warmth, his wit, and the ways in which he had expanded their understanding of recovery from serious mental illness by sharing his recovery story." Eric Arouse also received the Voice Award for his tremendous work as a consumer leader and advocate. Diagnosed with bipolar I disorder and addiction issued in the 1990s, he channeled pain and loss into hope and healing. He started a professional speaking and training company in 2007 so he could work directly with audiences, including veterans like himself, about the real promise of recovery. Since his death by suicide on March 25th, so many who knew him have commented about his empathy and energy and helped them feel hope when they couldn't find it themselves. Eric wrote, "Help me to let go and live, to bloom in a resonance with the rest of our passionate universe, to see my own life as something sacred and not just a death sentence to serve until it's finally over." Eric and Fred, we miss you dearly, tonight and always.
The American Occupational Therapy Association has been a longtime supporter of this Voice Awards. And so let's learn a little bit more about their work. Watch this.
It's not just a job. Like you're making our lives again.
Occupational therapists, they're making a difference every single day. They're making lives better. They're changing the world for the better every single day.
Please welcome Dr. Amy Lamb, President of the American Occupational Therapy Association.
There's nothing like a personal experience to make you an advocate. That was the road traveled by our next consumer peer family leader, James Moore. 3 years ago, James's son died from an accidental heroin overdose. Since then, James has become an outspoken and effective advocate who challenges the discrimination and bias around those living with addiction. His first step was putting up billboards around Hattiesburg, Mississippi that show the love, between a father and a son. This brought James into the conversation in his community and across the state about how families can best participate in treatment, including by letting go of their anger toward a loved one living with addiction issues. James also saw local convenience stores selling drug paraphernalia, so he investigated the practice and proposed an ordinance that would restrict the sale of these products in order to protect young people like his son. James shares his story at many town hall events organized by Stand Up Mississippi, a multi-agency coalition that raises awareness of the opioid crisis. And he also visits law enforcement agencies throughout the state to advocate for officers to carry Narcan, a medication that treats opioid emergencies. James has spearheaded the formation of the Road to Recovery group, which brings together members of law enforcement, faith, treatment, and academic communities to advocate for those living with substance use disorders. James Moore is the embodiment of the consumer peer family leader. I'm delighted to present him with this 2018 Voice Award.
And thanks to all those who have partnered with me back home. Following the death of our son Jeffrey, I was asked, what would I do if I were king of the world? If I were king of the world, I would give our communities the ability to understand that addiction is a disease and not a moral failing, so we could end the stigma keeping many from seeking help. I would give insurance companies the gift of compassion so that they would cover the cost of treatment for as long as it takes and as many attempts as it takes. I would give the families of those struggling the understanding that recovery is not about a bad person becoming good, but a sick person becoming well. And I would give those struggling through the fog of active addiction the assurance that the relationships harmed by their disease are never beyond repair, and I would help them to know that in their darkest hours they are indeed loved. Those who have found their life of long-term recovery, I would give the gift of courage to speak proudly about their new life, giving hope to those who follow. I'm not the king of the world, but that doesn't stop me or you from doing these very things in our own communities. These seemingly small acts can make a big difference in the lives of those we love, and in doing so, honor the lives of those we've lost. With thanks to SAMHSA, and thanks to all the partners I've worked with on this journey, I accept this award in memory of the life and in honor of the courage of our son, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Congratulations, James, and I'm sorry for the loss of your son. To present our next award, please welcome back SAMHSA's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use, Arnie Owens.
While Walter GINTER was discharged from the U.S. Army in 1972 because of his addiction to heroin, it wasn't until a few years later that he began his recovery journey. He spent 20 years in and out of medication-assisted treatment. When in treatment, he was able to build a successful business and life with his wife, Gloria. Each time he tapered off medication, however, he relapsed. Walter's life changed in 1997 when he was contacted by the National Alliance of Methadone Advocates, and he learned that his addiction wasn't due to bad behavior or poor choices, but a metabolic disorder. He wanted others with similar experiences to understand addiction is a disease and to recognize that using medication to treat addiction doesn't mean someone is weak or inadequate. As a person in long-term recovery who was helped by methadone, Walter understands both the incredible value of medication-assisted recovery as well as the bias it can carry. With the help of a SAMHSA grant, he created the Medication Assisted Recovery Services, or MARS, project to provide peer support to others whose recovery from opiate addiction is assisted by medication. The MARS project helps people finish treatment if they want, but also lets them know that if they need to continue with medication for their treatment, well, that's okay too. The organization's Beyond Mars Training Institute supports treatment programs in implementing their own MARS projects. Thanks to these trainings, 30 states now have MARS projects, with an additional 8 pilot programs in Vietnam, giving many people valuable assistance in their recovery journey and letting them know that medication can be part of that journey. Prior to MARS, Walter has been an active advocate for medication-assisted recovery, such as by serving as Vice President, Director of Training, and a board member of the National Alliance for Medication-Assisted Recovery. His many roles in support of the recovery community include board member of Faces and Voices of Recovery, planning partner for National Recovery Month, and a member of both the New York State Recovery Implementation Team and the Methadone Transition Advisory Group. It is my sincerest pleasure to present this 2018 SAMHSA Special Recognition Award to Walter P. GINTER.
My name is Walter GINTER, and I'm a person in sustained recovery. My recovery is assisted by medication, specifically methadone. Thank you. I entered methadone treatment almost 40 years ago. I did very well, stabilized, and began to move on with my life. Like many patients in my generation, after about 3 years, I tapered off methadone. Unfortunately, I relapsed. That became the pattern of my life for the next 20 years. I would enter treatment, do very well, and while in treatment, and after several years, I would taper, and soon after, relapse. Eventually, I met Jocelyn Woods, the director of the National Alliance of Methadone Advocates. Joyce was a patient, but also a trained neuroscientist. Joyce told me something I'd never heard before anywhere. She told me the reason I relapsed when I left methadone treatment wasn't because I was a bad person, but because my years of drug use had caused metabolic changes to my brain. She taught me opiate addiction was a metabolic disease and not just immorality or bad decisions. That was a life-changing moment for me. I'd never heard it before. I realized I had been wasted 20 years of my life bouncing in and out of treatment, and I didn't want new peers to waste as many years as I did. In 2006, we applied for SAMHSA recovery community funding, and I became the founding director of the Medication-Assisted Recovery Support MARS project. MARS was the first recovery project designed to provide recovery support to persons whose recovery was assisted by medication. It was so successful that the project has been replicated across the United States in opiate treatment programs, but more important than that, many freestanding recovery centers are now providing MARS services for their MAT peers right alongside their non-medication peers. Before I finish, I want to thank SAMHSA and the Voice Awards for this incredible honor. I want to thank Jocelyn Woods for starting me on this journey, and the peers at the MARS Project for proving every day that medication-assisted recovery is possible. And I want to thank my wife, Gloria, without whom I certainly wouldn't be here. And thank you.
Our next presenter got her big break in the role of Twin Peaks' Shelley Johnson. Now she's starring as the quick-witted survivor Alice Cooper on the CW's wildly popular series Riverdale. Accompanied by her children, Sylvester and Mina, please welcome Mädchen Amick.
How are you? We're just incredibly honored to have been asked to come and present tonight. Our family was affected with mental illness about 7 years ago. And We joined together as a family, and we've been navigating the waters as best we can, and we do everything we can to, give back and give a voice to everyone that we can. So, why does NBC's This Is Us work so well? Maybe because the writers are masters at creating an up-and-close personal examination of the experiences of an American family.
In the Emmy Award-nominated second season, they took viewers back in time to help understand the roots of a prescription drug addiction being experienced by Pearson family golden boy, Kevin.
Learning in his early football days to be stoic through pain, Kevin hides his physical and emotional agony behind a prescription drug addiction. Eventually, he reaches out to a breaking point, which helps him realize that Team Pearson has been there for him all along.
Let's watch. Show. We're so delighted to present the 2018 Voice Award to This Is Us writer and co-executive producer, KJ Steinberg.
I'm twice blessed. We were honored with this last year, and I read from index cards, and I had the misfortune of watching myself later on Facebook. I do not recommend it. And I was like, who's the wooden lady staring at a white piece of tiny paper? So I thought I would speak from the heart and just hope it's not a tiny little disaster for you all. Also last year, my husband was my date, and when I told him, I came home, I was so excited. I came home from work, and I said, you're not going to believe it. This Is Us got the Voice Award again. They've asked me to accept it. He said, oh, that event where we sobbed the whole time? I said, yeah, that event where we sobbed the entire time. And he said, well, I can't wait to go. And I said, no, buddy, you had your chance last year. I'm going to give somebody else the experience of this magnificent evening, because I think more people need to know what happens in a room such as this. So first-year writer on our show, Ebony Freeman, is here, brilliant young woman, and she said, so what's it going to be like? And I said, first of all, there's no bar. But you'll get drunk on humanity, so it's all okay. And I said, second, you're going to be amongst greatness. And you're going to view the work of documentarians who trudge the world, filming the forgotten people, amplifying voices that wouldn't otherwise be heard, sobbing the whole night. You are going to see people who have experienced tremendous loss, tragedy, struggle, and have turned their pain into positivity and productivity. And you're going to be in awe, and you're going to feel a little bit small, because what we do is fiction. And then I see a scene like this, and I realize the fortune of what we do. And I filmed a scene. Justin Hartley wasn't acting in this. If you saw last season, you'll know that he had an incredible arc. And the scene in the episode that I wrote that actually brought him to his knees, he was on his knees on the grass, on the ground, saying, "Why won't somebody help me? Why doesn't anybody see me? Why won't somebody help me?" And I looked around, and the burliest, most ripped, stoic boom guys were sobbing. Everybody from craft service to the extras coming up to me one by one saying, "My sister struggled with that. I lost my mother to that. My father had that my whole life. I am in recovery." And I thought, okay, this is a conversation. This thing that we're doing is a conversation. And I will tell you that our brilliant creator, Dan Fogelman, if the stories don't come directly from his life or his heart or his mind, they come directly from the lives and hearts and minds of the most brilliant writers' room I've ever had the fortune to be a part of. That's so nice, thanks. And right after the filming of that scene, I lost a friend of over 23 years to suicide. And he had struggled with addiction for as long as our friendship, as long as I'd known him. And I thought to myself, is it hubris to think, had he seen our show, would he have reached out to somebody? And when we get awards such as this, I say, no, it's not hubris, it's hope. This award, there's a lot of fancy schmancy stuff out there this season. This award is the most deeply meaningful to us. It says, you're doing something right, you're starting a dialogue, you're opening a heart. It's our cheerleader telling us to keep telling these stories. It tells us that maybe our characters are fictional, but what we write is not fiction. And it also nudges us as writers and producers and actors and the whole crew to be our best selves. So thank you.
Congratulations, This Is Us. It's our favorite show. Jason Waller rose to fame via MTV's The Hills and Laguna Beach. Now he dedicates his life to raising awareness about addiction and the potential for recovery. We're happy to have him here tonight. Please welcome Jason Waller.
I want to thank SAMHSA for all the work you guys do. I really appreciate it. We need an organization like you guys to raise awareness and continue the education that's out there. So thank you. So headlines across the country reveal a startling, heartbreaking truth. Opioids are ravaging our communities. In Huntington, West Virginia, the overdose rate is 10 times the national average. The Oscar-nominated documentary film Heroin introduces us to three women who won't give up on their community. A drug court judge, a fire chief, and an outreach worker all see the touch the epidemic from different vantage points within the community of Huntington. Together, they are determined to provide the hope and the help that will allow individuals battling addiction to recover their lives. This is Heroin. Such a good documentary if you haven't seen it. I'm honored to present this 2018 Voice Award to the director of Heroin, Elaine McMillan Sheldon, accepting via video.
Thanks so much for this award. I'm Elaine McMillan Sheldon. I'm the director of Heroin. It's such an honor to be recognized from your administration, and we want to thank the 3 strong Appalachian women featured in Heroin who are showing what it takes to fight the opioid crisis here in a grassroots way in West Virginia. Fire Chief Jan Rader for her fortitude on the front lines, Nisha Freeman for her compassion to serve her community, and Judge Patricia Keller for understanding that addiction is not a crime. This award is dedicated for the unsung heroes like the 3 women in Huntington all across the country, our first responders, and those in long-term recovery. There's still many more who are struggling with substance use disorder, and I think these 3 women are starting to break down stigma in their own community to help people reach the recovery that they so desperately need. Thanks again. Please host your own screening of Heroin and our new film, Recovery Boys. Both are available for community screenings. You can visit herointhefilm.com or recoveryboysthefilm.com to learn more. I hope that these 2 films are used to continue the conversation around how we can help people and how we can better treat people in our society and here in America, break down stigma and get people the help they need. Thank you guys for this opportunity.
Sorry, I realized I probably need glasses now, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Okay, so now I'd like you all to meet someone who is so focused on recovery, he wears a shirt that says, "This is what recovery looks like." David Stoker has been in recovery from alcohol and other drugs for nearly 10 years. And it is his aspect of his journey, rather than his addiction, that he focuses on the advocacy work. Now he calls himself a hope dealer, I like that, who helps people with substance use and mental issues get the support they need. And he celebrates those in long-term recovery, encourages them to be proud of who they are and who they have become and what they have accomplished. David is the founder of and director of Better Life in Recovery and co-founder of Springfield Recovery Center and a mental health first aid instructor. He aims to ensure that everyone, from individuals to family members and policymakers to media, uses language that give hope for recovery. He provides training throughout Missouri with that goal in mind. The social family recovery events that he organizes through Better Life in Recovery, such as school improvement, events as an annual family recovery day at Minor League Ballpark, exemplifies his commitment to engaging families in the recovery journey. While the organization began with one event in 2012, today it has a full calendar, providing numerous opportunities every week for individuals and families to become a part of a supportive recovery community. Today, he is an advocate and education outreach coordinator for the Missouri Recovery Network. An influential and proud advocate, he has changed lives, family, communities, and the state of Missouri as a whole. David says, "I would say recovery is my job, my hobby, and kind of my life." David, you are truly a role model for recovery, and I am so proud to present you with this 2018 Consumer Peer Family Leadership Award.
I would like to thank SAMHSA for this award, Brenda Schell for nominating me, and my wife for being my rock. Celebrate Recovery inspired my recovery. At CR, I shared my struggles and victories with people who didn't have substance use disorder, and they still accepted me. Their friendships helped me forgive myself and those who had hurt me for the very first time. I found hope. I could finally be more than just my diagnosis there. Over the years, my work has evolved from micro to macro and from abstinence to harm reduction. Today, my work teaches communities to meet people where they're at. People don't have to be abstinent to have worth. We all have worth inherently, and dead people never find recovery. Instead, recovery is found through multiple pathways. My path is Christ. Without him, I'm nothing. I want to thank Mary Turner for giving me my very first job. Brenda Shell, thank you for my dream job at the Missouri Recovery Network. Julie, my wife, who's watching at home, thank you for always supporting the work I do, which at times probably makes you feel like you're single. I couldn't do what I do without your support. You make me better. In closing, we have far too many people that are dying avoidable, preventable deaths. I hope someday soon, people will become more accepting of harm reduction, medication, and other pathways to recovery, and that behavioral health parity will exist in every state in this great country that we live in. Our children deserve it. Thank you.
Our next presenter is a talented film, stage, and television performer. And in her current role as Marjorie on Mom, her sensitivity and humor have helped the show's viewers better understand the complexities of recovery. Would you please give a warm welcome to Mimi Kennedy.
What a wonderful room to be in, and I'm honored to be here and feel like one of you, not just on screen, but in real life too. Addiction isn't funny, but the writers and producers behind our next award-winning TV show understand that humor can be an entry point for empathy and understanding. In this episode of CBS's show Mom, mother and daughter Bonnie and Christy discover cocaine and marijuana in the car of Bonnie's half-brother Ray, who is recently out of rehab. Confronting Ray with their discovery, their interaction is tense. Ray is dismissive and defensive, insisting he only uses occasionally. In a strong example of family and peer support, Ray's family is firm but empathetic, demonstrating that the recovery journey can be bumpy, but it's a little easier with the support of people who love you. Here is Mom. They love me as their sponsor. I am very proud to present this 2018 Voice Award for Mom to writer and executive producer, the wonderful and funny Gemma Baker.
Thank
you to the Voice Awards. Thank you to SAMHSA. It is my third time at this event, and I don't know when I'm going to remember not to wear mascara. I cannot see. It's so inspiring to be here. And, you know, the thing is, there is this cardinal rule when you're writing a sitcom that characters aren't supposed to change. They aren't supposed to grow. But the thing is all of our characters are in recovery. And if over 6 seasons they didn't change or grow, we would be getting it all wrong. So we have had the honor of breaking that rule hundreds of times. And over these 6 seasons, we've watched our characters, you know, make amends and heal their relationships and find love and follow dreams and live big, beautiful, fabulous lives with dignity and respect most of the time, unless you saw the scene where Mimi had a meltdown in the grocery store last year, which was fabulous. But most importantly, they do it together. And this is so much more than just a show for us. And so this award means more than I can possibly say. So on behalf of everyone at MOM, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so pleased to introduce our next partner presenter, the National Association of Social Workers. Let's learn a little bit more about what they do.
The National Association of Social Workers, the NASW Foundation, and the NASW California Chapter are proud sponsors of the 2018 Voice Awards. We congratulate this year's award recipients. Thanks for the outstanding, inspiring work you do. Social workers are the largest group of mental health providers in our nation. We know firsthand the challenges of providing quality mental health care. Thank you, SAMHSA, and the Voice Awards recipients for putting national attention on this vitally important issue.
Please welcome the past president of NASW, Suzanne Dvorak-Peck.
With 26 years in recovery under her belt, Roselle Green knows firsthand the support the people need to overcome addiction. She believes that everyone deserves a second chance. Hence the name of her organization, Another Chance of Atlanta, Inc. It had modest beginnings, starting out in an apartment almost 20 years ago with no funders. Today, it's a successful recovery organization with more than 30 partnerships in Metro Atlanta and across the state of Georgia. Another Chance provides housing, case management, substance abuse treatment, and other services and supports for veterans and others in recovery, as well as their families. Its Rhymes Not Crimes event for the National Recovery Month in 2017 provided parents and young people with an opportunity to talk about how hip-hop lyrics affect young people's substance use. Roselle also is involved with the Strong Families Community Initiative, which provides a food pantry and after-school projects, among other services, for more than 200 low-income and working families every single day. Another Chance motto is changing one life at a time. Roselle, Georgia, is so fortunate to have you changing lives there. I'm so pleased to present Roselle Green with the 2018 Consumer Peer Family Leadership Award.
Thank you so much to SAMHSA, and thank you so much for Denise Henderson, who nominated me for this award. My inspiration comes from belief in God, who performed a miracle in my life 26 years ago by delivering me from drugs and alcohol. At one point, suicide seemed to be an option for me. Today, I get to help and make miracles happen in others' lives. It doesn't get any better than that, and I will tell you that. I'm honored to be a voice for those who sometimes don't even know that they have a voice or anything worth saying. I founded Another Chance of Atlanta in 2000 because I believed everyone deserved another chance. Someone gave me one. Another Chance provides housing and support to homeless individuals and families and veterans. We serve approximately 300 people each year in the Atlanta area, including through a program called the United Way Supportive Services for Veteran Families that serves over 50 homeless veterans per month. I want to say thank you to my inspirations. There were 3 men in long-term recovery who believed in me and continue to mentor me today. Andre Johnson, founder of the Detroit Recovery Project, Robert Barber of the Atlanta Step Up Society, and Derek Billingsley of Hugs Recovery. Without them, I wouldn't have another chance. Education is the key to addressing behavioral issues, especially among our young people. The opioid addiction required more support on a community level and a buy-in from all community stakeholders. It will continue to take a village to make a difference. You are that village. And thanks again to SAMHSA, and thank you, Denise. Thank you.
Our next presenter is a talented actor and a longtime friend of the Voice Awards. He's next appearing in HBO's True Detective and the highly anticipated Amazon series, The Romanoffs. Please welcome John Tenney.
On Fox's new show, 911, much of the drama lies beyond the tough emergency situations in the backstories of the main characters. In this year's award-winning storyline, Bobby Nash, a first responder whose job is to save others, needs saving himself. An emotional job assignment reopens Bobby's emotional wounds caused by the death of his family years before, deaths for which he holds himself responsible. Noticing Bobby's declining state of mind and return to alcohol use, his coworkers remind him that even first responders are allowed to be human, and it's always okay to ask for help. Here is 911. I'm very pleased to present this 2018 Voice Award for Storyline to writer and producer Erica Anderson.
I am just so delighted and happy to be here. Thank you, SAMHSA. Thank you, the Voice Awards. I don't have any white note cards, but I do have a cell phone, so please bear with me. On behalf of all the writers and the producers on 911, we would like to thank SAMHSA and the Voice Awards for this very incredible honor and for celebrating shows that highlight storylines like Bobby's about trauma and addiction and recovery, stories that are important and relevant and real. Thank you, SAMHSA, for acknowledging us and for all you do to bring awareness to mental health illness and also to the mental health community. We are both encouraged and inspired to continue to tell these important stories. Thank you so much.
That's a tremendous news show. Congratulations on your first Voice Award. Before I introduce our next award, I want to take a moment to introduce you to an important resource. Those of us who are witnessing the current wildfires in California know that natural disasters can cause tremendous emotional trauma for those who experience them. Now, whether you're a survivor of a disaster, a first responder, a parent, or a caregiver, or anyone else affected, please know that you are not alone. And for anyone who may be struggling before, during, or after such events, SAMHSA has a disaster distress hotline that provides counseling and support services 24/7, 365 days of the year. These crisis counselors can be an invaluable source of information and assistance during difficult times. So please call 1-800-985-5990 or text "Talk with Us" to 66746 if you need help, or share the number with anyone you know who might find it useful. Now, trauma is, of course, also experienced by thousands of service members, veterans, and their families, even once a service member returns home from battle. How do families and service members experience civilian life when the battlefield follows them home? The answer is a little different for everyone, as we learn through our next documentary award winner, Battlefield Home: Breaking the Silence. Directed by the daughter of a combat Marine and told principally from the perspective of family members, we see how combat can take its toll on American warriors long after the conflict is over. It explores the continued trauma that veterans endure across generations and how it manifests into their daily lives, from depression and anxiety to drug use and suicidal thoughts. It also explores personal resilience, family commitment, and community support as service members and those who love them adjust to new challenges and new ways of relating to each other. Here is Battlefield Home. I'm very pleased to present this 2018 Voice Award to the director, producer, and writer of Battlefield Home, Anita Sugimura Holzapfel.
Give me a minute. This is overwhelming. This award means so much to us. I don't think any other award would have the significance that the SAMHSA award, the Voice Award, has for us. It gives us validation as a community who have remained silent for a very, very long time. And so I want to say my heartfelt thanks to SAMHSA and to the Voice Awards. Excuse me, that's why I do documentary films. I'm behind the camera. You know, this, first of all, I want to address a couple of people here. We have some of our veterans and family members from the film that are in our audience today. So if you get a moment, please go by and say hello. We've got John Keith with his service dog. We've got Daphne Wright, and we've got Stephen Sears. And I want to thank them personally. I want to thank them for being some of the voices. We interviewed roughly 35 to 40 veterans, family members, and supporters across the United States. This film took about 10 years. We had a lot of challenges, but we had a lot of determination that went with that. Basically, the story is basically that of a daughter who was looking to understand her parents, who were both survivors of war. My dad is a two-time combat Marine of Vietnam, received two Purple Hearts. My mom is a survivor of the bombing of Japan. So growing up in a dual PTSD household was interesting, to say the least, but it led me on a path, an unexpected path, to where we stand today. Growing up in those dynamics, there were a lot of questions that we of the Vietnam generation did not have answers to. And I think this generation are still searching. We have a long way to go, but with the collective that we have here in the community, you guys are helping to move the conversation forward. You're working so diligently to take the stigma out of the issue of mental health. You're shining a light in the dark places. And when there's light, there's always hope. And hope illuminates everything. And it gives people a reason to believe. And I think that's so incredibly important. For those of us who grew up on NAS Guam back in the day, we didn't have that. All we knew was we had parents who were suffering, but we didn't realize it. And for me to create Battlefield, it was to find the answers, not only for myself, but for my friends who lived through it, but also for my parents. And that's kind of what brought us here today, and through the 10 years that we've been doing this film. You know, my concern was, of being of the Vietnam generation, my concern was what was happening with the families of today, of OIF and OEF. Were they wrought with the same questions that we had? Were there still that confusion and that separation? And what were we going to do to help them move through their shadows? And I hope that we've successfully been able to answer some of the questions by giving our veterans a voice and a platform to be heard and to be validated with their stories and with their heart and with their journey. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you who do what you do, for the stories you tell, whether they're documentaries or fiction. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that we're storytellers, and we're getting it out there, and we're doing it collectively. And I think it's beautiful. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your voice and your talent and your gifts. And I want to thank again, the Voice Awards and SAMHSA for this incredible, meaningful honor. Thank you so much.
We are the APA Foundation. We represent America's psychiatrists. And our mission is to realize a mentally healthy nation for all by promoting mental health and treatment where you live, learn, work, and worship. Join us in our mission to promote a mentally healthy nation for all. And learn more at our website at apafdn.org.
Here to present the SAMHSA Young Adult Leadership Award is Dan Gillison, the Executive Director of the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Pleasure to be with you all tonight, and I'd like to talk to you about Kylie Rodriguez Cairo. She is a shining example of a young person who has risen above her own challenges to provide a voice to those in need. After years of growing up in the system and experiencing abuse, neglect, trauma, and mental health issues, she has become an inspiration to youth and young adults in her community to participate in the conversations about their treatment. As a co-chair on a System of Care Regional Advisory Council in Utah, and as a co-founder and community outreach coordinator of the Youth of Utah Advocacy Coalition, Kylie has taken the lead in creating a Transitions Academy in the region, which helps youth and professionals develop necessary skills and strengthen their abilities as advocates. She advocates outside her own community as well, using her writing as a platform to discuss mental health and social issues, such as in a recent article she wrote for the Huffington Post and regular articles for Bustle. The Magdalene Collective that she founded in Salt Lake City supports those involved with sex work by helping them get any services and resources they may need. With young people like Kylie making themselves heard and reaching out to support other youth in similar situations, the future looks very bright. Kylie, I'm honored to present you with this year's Young Adult Leadership Award.
I'm going to try not to cry. I am a crier. I've held it in all day. Let's see if I can do it for this. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for having me here this evening. Like others, I grew up in an abusive home where I was forced into silence. I developed an eating disorder at 11, and I was also subsequently diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar II disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, and PTSD as an adult. For a majority of my teen years, I didn't think I'd make it to my 21st birthday. I truly believed that. However, here I am at 23 accepting this award because this resilient voice inside me told me to keep going and writing and advocating. Whew. Okay. A lot of people have stood by me along my journey, so I first want to thank my mom and my sister and my grandmother, the three most important women in my life who define what it means to be a survivor. I also want to thank my best friend and fellow advocate, Colin Dively, my editors at Bustle Media, and Salt Lake's grassroots disability community for endlessly supporting me in discovering and using my voice. I feel blessed that my writing not only reaches thousands of people, but that I have a chance to make tangible change in my community and to uplift the voices of others who live with severe mental illness. Recovery is not a straight line, as probably many people in this room know. However, I want others to understand that finding your voice, whether that's through art, volunteering, music, through advocacy and writing like myself, is so empowering. When all of our voices collectively come together to share our unique experiences, we are unstoppable. Thank you.
Congratulations, Kylie. For those of you who regularly struggle through LA traffic, you probably would not describe the 405 as heaven. But for artist Mindy Alper, the 405 is one place she's able to talk to herself in ways she probably wouldn't bring up to other people, and those topics. Represented by one of Los Angeles' top galleries, Mindy also has acute anxiety, depression, and other mental disorders. Mindy's determination and hyper self-awareness have allowed her to produce a lifelong body of work that expresses her emotional state with powerful precision. Director Frank Stifel delivers an Oscar-winning portrait of a woman who, despite being unable to talk for 10 years, speaks volumes through her stunning creations. Let's take a look at Heaven is a Traffic Jam on the 405. Here to accept this 2018 Voice Award for Heaven is a Traffic Jam on the 405 is director and producer Frank Stifel. Congratulations.
Each night, my wife or I speak to Mindy at 7 o'clock. It's a reminder to take her medication. And it's a pleasure. It's not a chore. Tonight, she reminded me that we're a few days off the 6th anniversary of the day that I called her to say, why don't we have a cup of coffee? I think I'd like to make a film about you. And over the next few years, I interviewed her. We collected about 20 hours of interview. That's for a 40-minute film, 20 hours. And the one thing that I vowed I would never ask was for a diagnosis. I wasn't interested in doing a film on mental health. I certainly wasn't interested in doing a film on illness. What I wanted you to do was meet somebody. I wanted you to meet Mindy. And out of that, and because I didn't want to know what she had, and so we used a lifetime of her art and I applied every bit of craft that I knew in terms of camera and sound and animation and post to give you what was inside of her heart, inside of her head. And so, the film had its, it wended its way. I have to say that there was a moment while I was editing it where I realized that I was lost, and I invited a bunch of friends over, editors, directors, writers, producers, and I said, I'm lost. Let me show you the film. Tell me where I'm off. And so that was very helpful. But the thing that was most instructive was that at the end of that screening, where I showed a way overlong film, the end of that screening, nobody left. And everybody stuck around to talk about mental illness that was in their family. And I thought, of all of the things that I could learn tonight, this was the thing I could learn. And that was the experience that we had as we showed the film around the country, was that at the end of every screening, there were questions, but outside of the auditorium, there were lines of people who just wanted to talk about what mental illness had done in their family and who they were. So the film was an extraordinary experience. It had a wonderful film festival run. It won the Academy Award. People started to see it. And Mindy and I got notes, email, texts from people all over the world who said, in essence, I had never seen a film about me. This is the first time I ever saw me in a film, and that was rewarding. My favorite line was from a producer, a guy I met a couple of times, who called to say nice things about the film, and he said, it was the scene in the supermarket that really got me. So that you understand what the scene in the supermarket is, it was a transitional scene, it was nothing. She's there in the supermarket, she's wearing a Walkman, she talks about the anxiety of being out in public. It's there to set up the next line, which is the joke, but the nightmare is Costco. And I said, well, what is it about the supermarket scene? And he said, I wondered how many times I had stood in front or behind a Mindy while I was checking out of the supermarket, and either was frightened by that somebody that was like Mindy, or figured I wouldn't make the effort. And not only did I rip off that person by not saying hello, but I realized how often I had probably ripped off myself. I leave you with that so that the next time you think about that at your supermarket. Thank you.
Those are powerful words, Frank. We need more directors like Frank. Now, our final partner presenter tonight is the American Counseling Association. So let's learn a little bit about what they do. Watch this.
Counselors help positively impact lives by providing support, wellness, treatment, assessment, career guidance, suicide prevention, and so much more. We're working to change lives. As an integral part of a universal community rallied around mental health and substance abuse disorder recovery, the American Counseling Association joins with our mental health partners to stand tall for those affected. Together, we are creating a world where every person has access to the quality, professional counseling, and mental health services needed to thrive. Find out more about how counselors help at counseling.org.
This is another great organization that's doing their part. I want you to please welcome Richard Yep, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the American Counseling Association, to present our next Consumer Peer Family Leader Award.
is a local basketball star and coach. She's also an Olympic athlete. Interestingly, this is not how she got the label of game changer. That moniker has been earned for her work for the mental health community in Wheeling, West Virginia. The executive director of the NAMI chapter in the greater Wheeling area, Amy works 24/7 to support those with mental illness, including speaking openly about her own bipolar disorder recovery journey. In 2017, she spoke to more than 1,000 college students, provided 12 mental health first aid trainings that reached more than 350 individuals, and educated more than 200 principals, teachers, and counselors. She started an annual NAMI Walk for Awareness in October 2017 and partnered with West Liberty University to lead a 2-day mental health conference for professionals and community members in June 2018. Amy was instrumental in the production of This Is My Brave at the Capitol Theater in Wheeling in November 2017, which gave individuals living with mental illness or who love someone with mental illness the opportunity to share songs, poetry, essays, and more as part of a nationwide campaign to get people talking. NAMI Greater Wheeling has expanded thanks to Amy so that it can provide more support to the community, including through the acquisition of funding for counselors and both at-risk youth and adult support groups. For all your contributions, Amy, I am honored to present you with this 2018 Consumer Peer Family Leadership Award.
I'm very humbled and honored to receive this Voice Award. I wouldn't be here tonight without the support of my family and my NAMI Greater Wheeling family as well. So thank you very much to them. I've had a long and sometimes extremely difficult journey with bipolar disorder. It all came to a very bad crisis 6 years ago when I had a manic and psychotic episode, ended up 2,000 miles away from home, lost in the Idaho National Forest. I wandered around lost and confused for 3 days before I was rescued and taken to a psychiatric hospital in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The good news is I had excellent treatment. I'll never forget a nurse named Shirley who gave us a presentation on bipolar disorder. The one thing that she said that I'll never forget was, you have bipolar disorder, it's a brain disorder, and it's not your fault. It was as if all the shame I'd been carrying was erased in that moment. I finally understood it's an illness I needed to learn to manage. After I was stable, I made a vow that I was going to recover and use my story to help others. I've written a book called Bipolar Disorder, My Biggest Competitor, An Olympian's Journey with Mental Illness. I call this challenging illness my biggest competitor because even though as an Olympic athlete, I competed on the world stage with incredible competition, nothing has challenged me more than bipolar disorder. I hope to continue to use my platform for mental health advocacy and to help as many people as I can. Thank you, SAMHSA, for the work that you do, and thank you for this incredible award.
Congratulations, Amy, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Our next presenter is both a writer and actress in the Voice Award-winning television show Giants. Please welcome Vanessa Baden.
Pastor Warren back there that I was trying really hard not to tackle him. It's really exciting to see him here. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16, and I've been battling it ever since. And there was a book that he read that there's a mantra in it that I continue to tell myself, and it's that God does not purpose for us to walk around in the darkness and not know what our purpose is. And every time I get in a really dark place, I always say that to myself, and I'm literally about to choke up right now because Nice to meet you. Okay. For individuals who have a mental illness, it can be hard to know how much to share and with whom. Discrimination and bias exist in all areas of society, including the workplace, making it difficult to trust that a person will see beyond a diagnosis. In this clip from YouTube's series Giants, my character Journey is wrapping up a job interview when she bravely shares information about her experience with her bipolar disorder. It's only after her reaction to an emergency that her potential employer recognizes that mental illness is only one dimension of a person. I am very pleased to present this 2018 Voice Award to Giants creator, director, actor, and my best friend, James Bland.
I don't have no cards, but I do have a sheet of paper. No one asked if I wanted to put my speech on a teleprompter, so I hope I don't watch this on Facebook later and regret it. But I do love This Is Us, by the way. So it's really an honor to be amongst such great shows and such great people. If you guys don't know, Giants is an independent series that streams on YouTube. So you can go home, and watch it, after tonight. And so I would first like to thank my producers who stand beside me to create this show and do this work, CJ and Takira, who are in the audience. Thank you guys so much. But I would love to give a very special thank you to my best friend, Vanessa Baden-Kelly, because she has been so open and honest about her own personal struggles with mental illness. She doesn't know this, but she actually was a huge inspiration for me creating the show, because Vanessa would sometimes show up to my house, and she would just spend days on my couch. She was kind of like, Roger from Sister Sister. She just would never go home. And I would watch her, and I didn't quite understand, because no one in my family really talked about mental illness growing up. No one really spoke about depression. And so when I would watch Vanessa be so open and candid about her struggles and about this illness, it really shined a light on this disease, for me. And that was a huge part of my thinking of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to show when I began to create, Giants. But in addition, she was inspiring me to be myself. I learned this poem when I was in college called We Wear the Mask, and it's written by Paul Laurence Dunbar. And it goes, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries, to thee from tortured souls arise. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. And for a while, I thought that was the way to approach life. Especially as a person of color and a black man in America, I thought in order to survive, to succeed, I needed to wear the mask. And so I did. In my writing, in my films, in my life, I wore the mask, and I even hid in my personal writings, in my journals, until Giants. Giants was the first time that I decided to take off the mask, to show up as I am. And somehow, by the grace of God, I inspired other incredibly talented artists to come with me and to take off their mask and to show up as we are. And we did. We showed up for 13 episodes exactly as we are. Black, layered, vulnerable, complex, resilient, queer, depressed, broken, but not defeated. My greatest hope for this show is that it'll inspire other people to throw off their mask, to be open and to be honest about their struggles with addiction, with their struggles with mental health, with their struggles with just getting out of the bed and starting the day. And I hope that this show will inspire others on the other side of the struggle to be more compassionate, to show love, and to embrace those around us who are struggling in silence. Because in the words of James Baldwin, love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without, but know that we cannot live within. Thank you so much for this award.
I told them they had automatic membership in my church. That ball's still soaring, James. That was great. I may preach that Sunday. That was good. Now, our next presenter has made a tremendous impact on the entertainment industry. As an actor, as a producer, as a writer, as a director. In fact, she's the director of tonight's Voice Award-winning series, Mom. Would you please welcome Leah Thompson?
Hi, what a great night. Wow. This next film is a work of art, literally. Using the unique style of Vincent van Gogh, it challenges us to rethink everything we thought we knew about this individual who lived with mental illness, including the circumstances surrounding his death. In fact, after you watch it, you might reconsider how we've positioned many historic figures we've labeled as just difficult. Loving Vincent tells the story of the postmaster's son, Armand, who is on a mission to deliver the final correspondence from Vincent van Gogh to his brother Theo. In his pursuit, Armand comes to know Van Gogh's life and the positive and negative forces within it, leading to a greater understanding of this complex individual who, despite serious mental illness, showed compassion for those around him, and gave the world such amazing, incredible beauty. I invite you to experience the Oscar-nominated Loving Vincent. Here to accept the 2018 Voice Award for Loving Vincent is Kristen Harris.
Thank you guys so much. First, I want to clarify that I am neither one of the very, very talented co-directors of this beautiful film, Hugh Welchman and Dorota Kobiela, who both would have loved to have been here with you guys tonight, but they are in Poland. Alas, I am merely the very humble and very, very grateful distributor of this beautiful film. I want to really thank the Voice Awards for this wonderful honor. For many people, their first exposure to Loving Vincent was a beautiful short video teaser that went viral on social media long before the film was even completed. And the experience was much the same for those of us at Good Deed Entertainment. That's how we first saw and experienced Loving Vincent. But from the moment we saw those first brief minutes that brought the life of Van Gogh's masterpiece and personal struggles simultaneously, we knew we had to be part of this unique film in some way. And I'm honored that Good Deed Entertainment was able to serve as a distributor of this brilliant, brilliant film. Loving Vincent doesn't just celebrate the genius of Vincent van Gogh. It explores the complexities of his internal struggles in a natural and informal way. In a time when mental health issues are still often stigmatized, it's important for films like Loving Vincent to remind us that discussing mental health in all of its forms does not need to be a lecture, and it does not need to be something that we preach about. But to start, it does have to be something we recognize as part of our everyday lives more often than the media tends to portray. I'm proud to be part of a film that can be celebrated for both its artistic achievements and also its cultural significance. So on behalf of everyone involved in this beautiful labor of love, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful recognition.
Our next presenter weaves humor and heart into his role as One Day at a Time's Schneider, a supportive neighbor who is also a person in recovery. Please welcome Todd Grinnell.
One day at a time. Could there be a better title for a show about recovery? As somebody who has spent many, many years sitting in church basements, drinking bad coffee and reading those words on the wall, I feel privileged to be part of this show that tackles substance abuse and mental health issues in a deep and honest way, and I'm humbled and honored to be here tonight. In this episode, we see how Penelope, an Afghan war veteran, questions whether her medications to treat post-traumatic stress disorder and depression continue to be necessary. As is so often necessary in recovery, her friend, Schneider, that's me, who also, coincidentally, has a substance abuse issue, helps Penelope put treatment into perspective. Here is One Day at a Time. I am incredibly honored to present this Voice Award to One Day at a Time's writer and producer and fearless leader, Mike Royce.
I'm co-fearless leader, as you know, with Gloria Calderon-Kellett, who couldn't be here tonight. And the This Is Us lady got up here and spoke very beautifully from the heart. And then the guy from Giants says, oh, I have paper. And then he speaks very beautifully from the heart. I need the damn paper, okay? That's just the way it's going to work. Everybody at One Day at a Time we're just so incredibly honored to receive this award, and I do accept it on behalf of our cast and crew and the writers and Netflix and Sony, and especially on behalf of Norman Lear, our true fearless leader, who turned 96 just a week ago. And yes, he shows me every day that I am a 54-year-old slacker. He's got like 8 shows in development. He's a machine that won't stop. 3 years ago, when Gloria and I were developing and reimagining Norman's old sitcom, One Day at a Time, we had a million goals. We wanted to make it about a Latinx family, about a veteran, a single mom, a daughter just discovering that she's gay. We wanted to talk about religion, immigration, sexuality, heritage, and just so much else through the specific lens of this Latinx family. And also, of course, we were still thinking it's a comedy. So obviously our main character should have depression and anxiety. And in our episode that you saw a little of there, called Hello, Penelope, which is written by Michelle Badillo and Caroline Levitch, Penelope tries to go off her antidepressant. And we wanted to show not only the emotion and difficulty of this experience, but the struggle to communicate it to others. The people who want to help but can't, who try to understand but don't, how being on a medication is perceived as a stigma by Penelope's mom, and really by Penelope herself. And ultimately finding understanding from an unlikely source in Schneider, who has his own unique perspective on going through a bit of a dark time. The amazing thing was that the audience response to this episode was incredible, and tweets and messages and just poured in from people who related to Penelope's struggle and just kept telling us that they felt seen. And that's really the greatest reward to us. You know, no one who deals with depression and anxiety should ever be stigmatized or made to feel alone. Quite the opposite. So we, you know, always try to. It's a comedy, you guys. We always try to make our little show, you know, and fill it with laughs and tears about what it means to be human, because to be human is to strive towards happiness, and every human deserves to be happy. So thank you for this incredible honor. It's really an honor to be with all of you in this room. Thank you.
Don't you appreciate all the talent we've seen being used for good tonight? Amazing, amazing talent. All right, it's time for the Lifetime Achievement Award, and we welcome back SAMHSA's Arnie Owens to present the Lifetime Achievement Award.
What a great evening. It gives me now great pleasure to present the 2018 SAMHSA Lifetime Achievement Award to a remarkable person whose work has spanned, well, nearly 5 decades and whose impact has been felt in many communities. Gilberto Romero. He may be known nationally for his advocacy work for social, economic, and environmental justice through his volunteer activism, but in northern New Mexico, he's nothing short of a community hero for the work he has done organizing services and supports for underprivileged and underrepresented individuals living with mental illness. Born and raised in Santa Fe, Gilberto has been in recovery from alcohol addiction and mental illness, well, since the 1970s. He's used his personal experience to advocate for others following a similar path. He hosted a radio program in New Mexico on mental health awareness for 18 years. He was involved in the creation of the New Mexico Mental Health Association, served on the National Advisory Council for SAMHSA's Center for Mental Health Services, and he worked with NAMI to start the first ever Consumer Council. He also has worked with families affected by domestic violence and demonstrates an unparalleled knowledge of working in resource-deprived rural settings. His awards from organizations such as the National People of Color Consumer Survivor Network, the Latino Behavioral Health Institute, and the New Mexico Public Health Association, well, there are too many to really name here. He's received honorary degrees. He's been recognized with the Esperanza Hope Memorial Award and the Public Citizen of the Year Award. Those who work closely with Gilberto, well, they just call him one of a kind. So I'm very pleased to present this 2018 Lifetime Achievement Award to my good friend, Gilberto Romero.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got them, huh? I feel good about it. You know when you're getting old? Look at the large print. I ain't going to say that much. But I do want to talk about my journey to the Voice Awards. Started with Spring Forward. I know it's very little known about Spring Forward because it was a conference that was held in the early 90s where we talked about stigma, we talked about discrimination, we talked about social isolation. Out of that came the Voice Awards, the AB Center, and other ways that SAMHSA and Center for Mental Health Service thought to address some of these problems. I'd like to say what made me misbehave, you get up here and at my age, everybody thinks you're a groovy old man, but I do have a past, So I figured out that what made me misbehave was that I was not aware of my PTSD, I mean, shame me, humiliate me, you kick in my PTSD, hey, you got what you got. You know what? I love people, not labels. That's why I don't like to be stigmatized. It's a label. It's a perception that someone's got about you. I want to remind you that it's not a question of fault or blame. Mental illness is not a question of fault or blame. The question is responsibility. How much responsibility do I have personally for my illness? How much responsibility does society have to provide the means for me to get better? I guess on my journey, what has helped me is to discover that being true to yourself will yield wonderful and great results. And you'll be able to work with people better, being true to yourself, knowing your true nature. If you're wondering about the time we're in, we see them as difficult times. It's because of chaos, conflict, and confusion. What chaos, conflict, and confusion does, it instills in us fear and doubt. This fear and doubt makes us indifferent. We stop caring about our neighbors and so on. Social apathy. Who cares? Who cares? They got into it on their own. And this will lead to anger and violence. And anger and violence led to my self-destruction. And I'm sure it will lead to the destruction of others. I was thinking about when I was coming to the Voice Awards, and this thought came to me. The journey of self-discovery starts with the first step and ends with the last breath. Oftentimes there's been acknowledgement of wisdom I have expressed. If there's any wisdom, it comes from listening to others for my guidance. What the wisdom I've been expressing is PCC. That's the key, PCC. Passion, compassion, commitment. I want to throw a shout out to my wife, couldn't be here. Currently now, our advocacy and our work in the community is through farming, through educating people about healthy life and healthy living. Also want to thank all those involved in the Voice Awards, too many to name. Start naming names, you forget one, then somebody's gonna get hurt. So all I want to say, por mi gente, for my people.
And with that, the 2018 Voice Awards comes to a close. We would once again like to thank SAMHSA for giving us this platform to connect with all of you about our experiences and how important it is that we all keep talking about mental illness and substance use disorders.
Now, everything that we have seen and heard tonight reinforces the fact that none of us are immune from the effects of these conditions, but together we can pursue a path of recovery. And we all look forward to seeing what SAMHSA has to do these next years and months ahead as helping us as a community, as a nation, as individuals. We can support each other. And for those of you who struggle with mental illness, I just want to say to you personally, your illness is not your identity. Your illness is not your identity. Your chemistry is not your character. Your chemistry is not your character. It is not a sin to be sick. It is not shameful to be sick. God has a good plan for your life. Thank you, everybody. Good night.